Yeah, this is tea time. Yeah, making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz. Tea time. Making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time, yeah. Tea time.
Well, welcome everybody. It is afternoon tea time. That is right. And we are September 14, 2023. We are on over 100 tea times already this year in 2023. And this afternoon, I am joined with the amazing Kevin Dunlap. And we're going to be talking about books, online courses, workshops, programs, all that good stuff, and the performance on how to better your business to have better we're gonna building better business solutions. Miss Liz, my tongue already all starting to twist here out. But we got Kevin in the background, and we're gonna bring him out, and he's gonna serve us a good, strong TEA, teaching educational awareness. But he's gonna share his tea with us this afternoon. And if you have any questions or any comments, or if you enjoyed this tea time, share it. Click to the channel, Miss Liz's Tea Times on the YouTube channel. Give it a quick subscribe. Share this tea time out to all of your friends and family and businesses that it might resonate with. Because together we grow when we spill the tea together. So let's get the disclaimer out there and get a little bit of bio on Kevin. And then we're going to get Kevin in here, and he's going to spill a good, strong TEA with all of you. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz, myself, is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that the content brought forward for any Tea Time show hosted by myself, Miss Liz, is always brought forward in good faith. However, may bring forward dialogues and opinions that are not representative of my platform. The facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the giving time of airing. All Tea Time guests and audience participants are responsible for using their good judgment in taking any action that may relate to the discussion. The content brought forward may include discussion for some where they may be emotionally at risk. It is significant to know that the show is engaging in discussion forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection, and is not providing therapeutical advice. If you have any questions about the disclaimer or the panelist discussion, you may freely contact me, Miss Liz, through my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com. Moving forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in today's show in any aspect, I myself, Miss Liz, welcomes you. And should you decide that the show is not made for you at this time, I respect those wishes, and will see you at a later show at a later date and time. And again, all Tea Time shows this year are done on a Thursday at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So a little bit now on my guests. I have the incredible Kevin A. Dunlap sitting back there. Kevin has been a speaker for many years, starting off as a graduate student at Florida State University. This taught him skills and techniques like being flexible and adaptable to different situations that he all uses today. Today, he speaks on different topics ranging from a personal, professional development, and business-related topics. His unique background ranging from serving overseas for 4 years in the U.S. Navy, being a college math tutor and teacher, performing on stage and in films as a stuntman and stunt coordinator, to speaking at different professional organizations, has given him a lot of unique experiences he enjoys sharing with others. He was an active student and learner for several years while honing his skills at various Toastmasters associations. Kevin is currently the founder and lead trainer at Optimal Performance Academy, which is an organization that includes creating online courses, groups, and private coaching and public speaking to different organizations and groups. When he was younger, his mother installed him with a love for travel and seeing more of the country and the world. In late 2021, he decided to purchase a vehicle while visiting his alien father, while ending up becoming a 54-day road trip, including seeing 14 states and driving the circumstance, circumference of both Florida and California. His goal is to speak at more places across the US and around the world, teaching what he has learned over the years and to aid others to gain a better understanding of their own abilities and to that the, instill that they can too, whatever they set their minds to. So let me get Kevin in here and let me grab a sip of my tea because my tongue is just getting doing these twisty things again. Welcome, Kevin.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
Sometimes my tongue just does all this crazy twisty turny thing, right? And I'm just like, what's that word? Or the letters kind of go backwards with my dyslexia, and I'm just like, what am I trying to say here? So I got to slow down sometimes, right? I got to just take easy. So Kevin, I want to start off with, we gave a little intro with your bio, but I want to start off with the little boy to the grown man. So who are you as a little boy?
Well, sometimes when I give a Toastmasters talk, I talk about even when I was an infant coming into the world, I was breaking records. I was born in Pensacola, Florida, on a Tuesday, and my mom when I came into this world, I weighed 12 pounds 7 ounces. I broke the hospital record of the biggest baby ever born, but that hospital was only open for like 50 or 52 years at that time. So
Wow. That is a big baby.
that's a big
God bless
baby.
your mom.
And my younger brother came a year and 3 months later, and he
Oh
was a preemie.
wow. And he was a preemie, so she got a little break in between.
Uh, but you asked me about what I did as a kid. I was very actually fascinated. I grew up in the late '60s and early '70s, and I was very interested in science. Actually, what got me started with all of that was watching the reruns at that time of the original Star Trek TV show, and that got me really interested in science and astronomy. Back as a kid, I was making spreadsheets. Before spreadsheets were invented, writing on pieces of paper how what were the names of the moons for every planet, how far they were from the sun, and I was just very fascinated by science. I mean, I was a science geek. And because of being labeled the geek, my younger brother and a neighbor and I would actually often play Dungeons and Dragons as a kid. So we were all into that fantasy role playing. That whole. I guess that's where a lot of our creative side came from. Was playing things like that, because if you're playing a fantasy game and all you're doing is you've got a character written out on a piece of paper. I usually play two characters written out on a piece of paper. It was just imagining what was going on with them. So I mean, I even remember the names. One was Thangar, he was a dwarf fighter, and the other one his name was Molgar, and he was the human cleric. So, and that was back from the early '70s. So that was a long time ago.
It is truly amazing just how well Tea Time works out. Every week, my guests just align because right after you this afternoon, this evening, I have a science fiction fantasy author who's written over 50 books. And here we are talking about science and fantasy and all of that and how Star Trek, it's just how the universe works for the T's. The T's just align together. So,
Yes.
what has science and fantasy taught you about the work that you do today, Kevin?
Well, I haven't really looked at it from that perspective, but if I had to go out on a limb and look and think about that, I would say that the science and the fantasy, I guess, it taught me to be more creative, as well as being, following your passion or following your dreams. Um, I mean, you mentioned before about doing stunt work. when I was persisting to wanted to get into the stunt business. I mean, at that time I was in grad school at Florida State, and I started taking fencing lessons and scuba diving lessons. I started to do skydiving. I took martial arts classes because I was self training myself. But after a couple of years of not really anything going on, I started taking time of sword fighting and stage combat when I lived in Raleigh back in the late '90s. And after being downsized, I said I still want to pursue my career, and this is all about determination and about persistence. I decided that I didn't want to live in at that time. I took a brief stint to go live in Charlotte. I drove out to Wilmington, North Carolina. Like, is this? I know this is a film town, and then I happened to be wanted to look at places to live. So I went to a bookstore. I got a local map, a paper map, because this was the year 19. This is early 2000. And the world didn't end. And I got a map, I got a newspaper, and I got a roll of quarters because cell phones weren't invented really yet, not for the main society. And I ended up going to a phone booth in the middle of nowhere. It was in the side of the road. There was nothing. There's no stores, there's no buildings or anything around this phone booth. And I started making a phone call to looking at either jobs or places to live. And inside that booth, this was a Friday, and inside that booth was a flyer that says, "This Saturday, big stunt show at Screen Gym Studio." And I was like, so to me, it was a complete manifestation. I went to that stunt show, met some independent stunt people that were doing some smaller stunts, and ended up 2 weeks later, I was part of their group living in Wilmington, North Carolina. So,
Wow.
so I started working on film sets, stage sets, and became, assistant stunt coordinator for the troupe, which is also known as a stunt safety. And then I ended up, choreographing my own fights and stuff like that for both film and stage. So to me, that was my biggest lesson about manifestation as well as persistence. Is if you go after what you're wanting hard enough or strong enough, then at some time, if you are persistent, it will pay off.
So you mentioned a stuntman. So like stuntman's in like big major movies, like.
No, I mean the only major movie that I filmed in was a movie called The Black Knight with Martin Lawrence, which
Oh.
that was filmed in Wilmington. And if you ever watch the scene where Martin Lawrence, and this is not a stunt scene, this is an extra scene. Ever watch the scene where Martin Lawrence is caught in bed with the young redhead woman? You got two guards there with the masks. I'm on the screen. Well, if you're looking at the screen, I'm on screen left. Camera right with screen left.
I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna be that stalker that just checks you on camera.
But if you see the big fight scenes going on, that I was in all of those.
So what got you into stunts?
When I was in Tallahassee. I worked on a film set that was in a little town called Quincy, Florida, which is about 30 minutes outside of Tallahassee. I think it's west of Tallahassee. And they were filming an independent film called Roses. And I was basically just a production assistant, and sometimes I was an extra. It was unpaid. But the thing is, I learned one thing is that I loved the magic of film. I love being on film. However, I did not want to be acting in front of the camera with lines. And I did not want to be working behind the camera, 8, 12, 16-hour days for 2 or 3 months on different film sets. Like I did not want to do that either, but I still wanted to be in film. Like, who is a person that does not act in front of the camera and does not work as crew behind the camera? Go, well, stunts. You're just different. You're just there for your gig, or gag as they call it.
So Kevin, we have a question here about stunts. How old do you have to be to become a stuntman?
I do not, because I worked in independent film, so I would say probably the youngest that you could be is probably, I would say, at least 18, because that's when you can sign a contract.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I do know that when children are doing stunts, they try to. I don't think they usually use children. They usually use shorter people, shorter adults, like dwarfs or little people. Whatever the politically correct way of saying that. So I would say at least 18, because you can't sign a contract otherwise. And if you get hurt say you're 17, that could be lawsuits.
Well, and you were a big baby, so you can't be that small.
No, I'm 6 foot. I'm standard height.
So, Kevin, I want to get into your business, the Optimal Performance Academy. You being a stuntman is performance.
Yes.
So, is that where that word comes from, performance?
No, when I came up with that the name of that company a year and a half ago, 'cause I did want to create a school, and using the word university or using the word school or something like that in the title, I didn't want to do. But being ex-military, I did like the word academy. And then I was like, what else can I do? And I'm all about the little hidden things that you don't see. And I was toying around a little bit, and I came up with Optimal Performance Academy.com was taken. That's why I have the .org, which nobody's using it. It was just somebody bought it, and it's one of those domains that just sit out there and in the ether. And after when I came up with the name, I wanted to say, what can I talk about? As an academy, optimal performance was like, how can you? It became natural because that is going to be performing better as an entrepreneur. And then also, I like the fact that if you get the three words and crunch them down to just three letters, like OPA. Well, OPA is a Greek word, even though I'm not Greek, for celebration. So it's like so I like that little play on the word as well. I mean, my other companies that I've created had something similar, had a lot of behind the scenes meaning that are not completely evident to anybody unless I tell them about it.
I kind of like that because it makes you think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the celebration of performance. Like you have to perform in order to celebrate.
Correct.
I kind of like the way that it flows. And I kind of like that you brought your history of your work history into it and building a school, the academy. The word school sometimes is overused, it's overrated. And academy kind of brings you into there's going to be some kind of training, there's going to be some kind of coaching, so you know what you're prepared for. And with Optimal Performance Academy, you do a lot of online courses and workshops. So do you want to talk a little bit about that? And then we're going to jump into your books and all of that good stuff. And if anybody has any questions or comments or any support that you'd like to share, put it in the comments or directly send them to Miss Liz on my DM on my Facebook page, and I will get those questions out to Kevin during the tea time today.
Okay. Well, I am in the process of creating more and more courses, online courses. Uh, and at the time of this recording or this broadcast, I have 18 courses that we currently have. We are planning on creating many more courses because, again, if you're going to go to an academy, you need courses. So that's why I'm building those courses. Right now, I have 7 different tracks that I have. And these different tracks are things from like startups tracks, the business tracks. It's going to be online courses tracks. If it's going to be a speaker track, there's a real estate professionals track, and I did the real estate professionals because I was in real estate for 18 years. And so I have these different tracks for these different avenues. Just like if you go to a school, you say, well, I'm going to be a math major or a science major or English major. You have your own set of courses that you're going to be taking. Some may overlap, many of them won't. So that is what I'm building right now. We do also have right now 3 different levels of group consultation. We're doing mainly group. I do some solo consultation, but I prefer the group because people learn from other people that are, I mean, you can go to a classroom of one person and the teacher, or you can go to a classroom, say, of 10 people and the teacher. You can often learn from those other 9 people.
Well, you get different inputs, right?
We get different inputs, and you also, when somebody asks a question, like, "Oh, I never thought of it that way," rather than trying to do experience everything on your own. So, and I don't think you mentioned it, but I was a college math teacher for a few years when I was living in Wilmington, part time. So I liked the classroom environment. I liked teaching other people. You mentioned I was also a math tutor, and being a tutor was actually very, very fun. Because people will come, and I worked in the math lab, so that meant I'm at the school. I'm at either Pensacola Junior College, which is now they changed their name, or University of West Florida, where I got my undergrad, or FSU when I was a teaching adjunct. Is that somebody will come to you and say, hey, Kevin, I need to learn how to do and get a common denominator. Okay, so I can now understand their math skills are very, very low, so I have to change my level of talking. Then the next person says, hey, I need to solve this triple integral for my calculus 2 class. Okay, for those people, I can start making assumptions. Like I'm going to assume you know how to add numbers and multiply numbers and do that, because you wouldn't be doing that level of calculus if you did not have those basic skills. What that taught me is how to think quickly on my feet and to be able to relate to somebody at whatever level that they're at. And that to me was probably one of the biggest educational learnings that I did, even though I was still just a 20-something-year-old going to college.
I kind of like the way that you described that, Kevin, because different people understand math in different levels, in different degrees, and it's like a business course as well as online courses. Everyone learns at different avenues, different paths. Somebody might learn on the right side, some might learn on the left side. Some might learn how to multiply, some might learn how to divide faster. So I like the analogy that you're using in order to teach, because you're taking your life story as well. You're taking your life, what you've learned in your life, and giving back to others.
Well, another thing is when I was at grad school and I was when I was teaching math, I had my own classes. One of the great things about that was that no, I was an adjunct. I became a math teacher when I lived in Wilmington. When I was in front of the room, I remember I talked to my students that I'm going to teach you this course. I'm going to teach you these the required reading, but I'm going to teach you like a tutor. I'm going to show you the shortcuts. I'm going to show you the why this is. I'm not teaching you the way the book teaches you. I'm going to teach you basically how I tutor, and I'm going to go way above and beyond what this little book talks about. So when you go to somebody else's class, you're going to be a lot more prepared. For an example, I remember I learned this in my physics classes. It's like you're converting miles per hour to kilometers per second. And I would show them, why the hour goes in the numerator, so the H's would cancel it. So I taught them that. My test was not miles per hour per kilometers per second. Mine was more like miles. Let me throw that. Miles quarts per second. So I would put it a lot more. But if you knew how the technique worked, then it doesn't matter which ones, how many units that were in the numerator or in the denominator. So that when they go to their physics classes or their chemistry classes, and they're using moles and units of energies like joules or something like that, they know how to do that, and that's how I taught them.
Awesome. So we have another question for you, Kevin. They're asking,
Sure.
how long are your online courses?
That depends. My longest course is called the Online Program Creator, which is made up of, I think, like 8 different sections. And the longest one is about 6 or 7 lessons. That was my biggest course. That one is about 4 hours long. Most of my stuff is usually going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of an hour to 2 hours, depending on the course. And if you go to the website there and go under our training and then a curriculum and go all the way down to the bottom, which is online classes, you will see all of our classes on there. If you click on the Learn More, that Learn More page does tell you how long each class is. So, but most of our classes are going to be in the hour to hour and a half range.
Okay, we have another question here for your classes. Are they afternoon or evening classes?
These are online classes. So you would just purchase these and then you can watch them at your leisure and as many times as you want.
Okay. Because there's different online courses, right? There's some that it'll be at a certain time. You have to sign on at that time. You have to do them at that time. But the way that you run your programs, Kevin, they purchase the course and then they do it on their own time?
For my online classes, yes. For my pre-recorded online classes, that is correct. Now, I do have trainings on Tuesdays at 3:00. I post all of those events on the website. My upcoming one is not on there yet. But if you go to meetup.com and then go do /small-business-owners, then you will see all of our live events. So we do these on Tuesdays at 3:00. And so I don't want to mention the one that's coming up because when somebody watches this next week, it's going to be gone. But just go to meetup.com and do the small-business-owners. You will see all of our courses on there, and then sign up for the ones that you want, and those are free. And those are usually between 60 to 90 minutes in length. Some of them are a
Okay.
little over 2 hours, depending on the topic.
Thank you so much, Kevin. We have another question. What age do you have to be to take your course?
You can be any age, but the thing is that if you're under 18, you'll have to get probably permission of your parents to
Okay.
do the credit card. But to me, I don't care about the age. If you're 16 and you got permission by your parents to do so, I applaud entrepreneurs that are starting that young.
I really like that you have that option there, Kevin, because there is a lot of kids that are 16, 17 that feel like I got to wait till I'm 18 to do this. But they have this drive to be an entrepreneur at a younger age, So it's nice that you have that option out there.
Well, when I was in real estate, before I got my realtor's license in 2012, so this would have been like 2008 or 2009, I was running a real estate consultation business, and I was connecting owners with tenant buyers through a unique lease option program that I was running. I ran that for 8 years. And I remember this one guy named Kelvin. He was an Asian guy out of California, because I was living in Vegas at the time. He was an Asian guy out of California. And I think I had 3 or 4 of his properties. And then I found out he was like 21 years old. Like, so I just applauded that. Like, dude, you're way ahead of the game.
Right? We got to keep encouraging the kids. We got to keep, if you got a drive to be an entrepreneur, just get out and do it. Just try. I tell everybody, try. If you don't try, you don't know, right?
If you don't try, it's an automatic fail.
Right? Because you didn't put the effort into it. So your result is you're not going to get anything because you didn't put the effort in.
Right.
So Kevin, I want to ask you, if I give you the word TEA, what 3 words would you give me for your T today?
I would say a transformation or transformational, empowerment. And the word that I'd like to use for the A would be adaptable. And that
Ooh.
means you have to be willing to be trained, and you must be willing to do something different. So you have to be adaptable.
So do you want to tell me why you gave me the other 2 words?
Transformational, because I did a lot of stuff in a personal growth arena. So the transformational to me means you're working on yourself. You're constantly improving. You realize that you're not at 100%. You can always improve. You can always get better. And transformational means being open to change, being open to doing something different. I would strongly suggest anybody that wants to work on themselves that they do join some type of a personal development, professional and personal development course, online or in person, and then just trust the process. So that means to also participate.
And empowerment.
Empowering or empowerment. Again, I think a lot of people are, kind of hold themselves back. You hear a lot about, say, Black empowerment, Asian empowerment, women empowerment. It's all about that. You can't always just look at it from the white male perspective. So empowerment to me just means is to empower yourself so that you can achieve the goals that you're wanting.
I like that. I like how we have to empower ourselves first before we can empower anything else, right?
Usually, yes.
So now, Kevin, I want to get into your books. So we're gonna start. We're gonna play around because your first book we're gonna do last, but we're gonna jump into the book called Launch, and I want you to speak a little bit on that book and why you wrote that book.
Well, I'll hold this up. This is the book Launch. It's called the A to Z in Creating a Successful Business. Now, this book is not only a book, but it's also a workbook. So you have exercises in it. This book is not a thin read. It's 2 fingers wide. So it's a fairly thick book. It's 450 pages. Ooh. And the reason I wrote that book is this was 12 years in the making. Because when I started taking personal development courses and working on myself back in 2010, that opened me up to go into seminars, workshops. Back then, I was living in Vegas. So I was close to LA. I was close to San Diego. Vegas had their own conventions as well. So I was within a 4 or 5 hour drive. This book here was that 10 years of education. All the courses that I've taken were put into this book. All the exercises, all the life experiences that were all put into this book as well. And this book is actually what caused me to start the Academy. When I wrote this book in 2021, I've been needing to write this book for years. Years went into that. When I moved to Raleigh in 2022, and I had already transitioned out of being an entrepreneur working in real estate, I was saying, what should I do now? And I looked at this book and go, when do I make an entire business around this book? And this was the catalyst. So that book is why I created Optimal Performance Academy. That book is why I do online courses. I mean, my online courses, one topic could be, time management. Another one could be how to speak from stage. Another one could be crafting your transformational story. Those are all little sub chapters in this book.
So how'd you get the title?
Was that?
How'd you get the title?
The title came from a woman by the name of Allison Maslin, and I attended one of her courses, and she actually handed. I won her book and workbook as well as a mug, and her book was called Blast Off, and everything was all about blast off. So then I thought, well, that gave me the idea, like, well, what's another way of launching of going fast? And that's why I created the book launch with the exclamation point. Now there is another guy with the name Launch out there without the exclamation point. His name is Jeff Walker. And after I wrote the book, like, yeah, this is kind of close to this is kind of like the same title as his. But I said, well, I'll put the exclamation point on there to accentuate this. Now he talks about launching your products and doing different kind of launches because hey, I got this new program coming out, which is perfectly fine. I am a student of his, but yeah, I did launch because I wanted people to start their own business, and to me, launch with the exclamation point is starting your business.
So the exclamation point, what does that actually stand for you in your life?
The exclamation for me is taking massive action right now.
I like it. I like the way that you use your life story to push yourself to everything that you do, Kevin.
Yeah. One of the things I've got a very unique and multifaceted life, and I put that into everything that I do now. I mean, one of the things I talk about that I really learned from doing the stunt business was that if you're about to do a stunt and you're nervous, like you're afraid and whatever, maybe you've only rehearsed it a few times and you're afraid something might happen, whatever, and then you're on the movie set, and whenever the director says action, that's your cue to go. And you're standing there, you're nervous. This is about to jump out of a 4-story window, and you're going to land these cardboard boxes onto an airbag, whatever it is. And you're nervous, like, is the FX guy, is he going to blast that window at the right time, or am I going to actually run into the window? Whatever the thing is, or am I going to be with a turn? And then you're getting nervous, you're pacing a little bit. Then you hear the director say, "Okay, quiet on the set, roll camera, roll sound, action." And that's your cue. You got to go. But the thing is, if you're a stunt person, in my opinion, and you are fearless, you are dangerous.
Wow.
But if you're a stunt person and you have that fear, but you act in spite of that fear, then you have control. And if you equate that to your life, I'm about to go out on stage and there's 600 people in the audience. I've never spoken on that. And they start reading your intro. And they say, "And welcome to the stage, Kevin Dunlap." And that's your cue to walk out on stage. You got to walk out on stage. No matter if you trip, bomb, or whatever, but you still have to act in spite of the fear. Or I call it, you have to control your fear.
I like the way that you put that, because when you get not afraid and you're fearless, then you don't have any room to really grow, right?
And then I think sometimes you become dangerous, because if you become fearless, then you may forget to check that, that's why pilots have a checklist. If you become, let's say you're a base jumper and you just become fearless, maybe there's that one time you didn't check to make sure that you were connected to the bridge.
Right? No, I got this. I'm not scared. I don't need to check those cords.
So that's why I say it the way I do. Is that, but the thing is, even when I lived in Japan for 4 years, when I was in the Navy, on ship in the Navy, and I've visited 14 countries. Now I'm a white guy from a small town in Northwest Florida. Now I'm in Japan. I'm the foreigner. I'm the alien. I'm the one that doesn't speak the language. I'm the odd person out. I'm the tallest person in the room. I mean, And you, when you start living amongst other cultures, then that's when you start to appreciate how other people are, how other people's perspectives are. And I have a strong believer that anybody should get outside of their regular area of life and go. And if you can go to another country, go to another country. If you can't go to another country, go to another state. If you can't go to another state, go to another part of town that you don't normally that you not would not normally hang out. As an example, so if I was a white guy living here in Raleigh, well, let's go. Where's Chinatown? Let me go hang out in Chinatown for a while.
Well, that's
You
how
know,
you get to break the comfort zone too, right?
we not only do you break the comfort zone, but then you start to appreciate other people for who they are.
Yep.
And that, I think, is one of the biggest things that I think a lot of people in the world, I'm not even just talking about in the country, they don't really know how other people are. Having a podcast is a beautiful way of doing it. Like I had a podcast in 2017, 2018, where I interviewed other entrepreneurs. And I would say out of the 59 episodes that I released, even though everybody was respectful and or was kind and humble and all of this, my last 15 or so shows, I said I want people that are entrepreneurs, but they cannot be from North America. I've got plenty of Canadians. I got plenty of Americans. Got a couple of Mexicans. I got people from Vietnam that came to the U.S. and they became an American. I had some of those. Like I want people in another country, and I would say by far by far my favorite guest. His name was Pavel Virmnik. He was living in Moscow. He was Russian, and I learned from him. He grew up in a small town, and he's saying this in the Russian equivalents that it's like money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford that. The same stuff that we go through here in America. And he's saying when he was living in that small town, when he was a little boy, he goes, one day, I'm going to move to Moscow. Just like we say, I'm going to go to New York City. I'm going to go to LA. I'm going to go to wherever it is. And just listen to him. Share that information. I mean, it was one of the most transformational things that I went through. Like, oh my gosh! I mean, so the Russian people are just like us. You can't confuse the politics or the government with the people. The people are good people. And that's one of the biggest lessons I learned.
I love that because that's why I do what I do, Kevin. That's why I do global. I don't just do Canada and US because there's issues around the globe that they just want the same as what we want,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't get that chance. They don't get that voice. It's always like, look at my country, look at my country. No, let's look at someone else's country. Let's get to know other people, other traditions, And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Kevin, that you did a podcast in 2017 and 2018. For all the listeners and viewers out there, podcasts didn't start in 2020. It was a long time before that. A lot of us got into podcasting in that year because of COVID and that. But I
Right.
mean, podcasting has been going on for over a decade, I believe. Correct?
I well, my first podcast was in 2016. I just because it was me just talking to the camera, at that time I was promoting my second book, but then I was so inconsistent that I just let it go. But I still love the name. The name of the show was called Life's Little Lessons, and then I was out hiking in Las Vegas in early 2000 or mid 2017. Like I would love to have my podcast again. I love the name because Life's Little Lessons. Number one, it has three L's. I always call it L cubed. So I liked that aspect of it. But then I said, how can I have a podcast where I know I can have consistent content? Is that I can keep coming up with all this content, and then it hit me, guests. I just have guests. The guests bring in the content, and like
Did you ever think about repurposing your content from 2016 and 2017, 18?
I well, that's a double-headed question. Now the podcast is because I took it down in 2019 because it wasn't monetized, and I didn't want to pay the few $100s a year to have it hosted on other platforms because I was focusing on different things at the time. But it is available on the website. It's one of our cheaper. I think it's like $27 for all 59 episodes, which is about 48 hours. So it's not, and you can watch them in any order. So on the if you were to buy it and you go to the platform that they're on, you'll see all 59 of them, but you do not have to listen to them in order. You can listen to them however you want. The second thing that you said about repurposing my content, when I wrote my second book, which is called Designing Your Own Destiny, I actually decided I would create a course on how to become a self-published author. And oddly enough, that you asked me that question, I dusted the cobwebs off of that. That was my most recent course that I just released about 2 weeks ago. Was become a self-published author. So it was redoing the content that I did back in 2017 or 2018. Let's
talk about that book, Kevin, since you brought it up. And we're going to jump from 3 to 2. Designing Your Own Destiny. Let's talk about that book.
Okay, well, this is the cover here, Designing Your Own Destiny, and it says Embracing Change Through Leadership and Love. As you can see, it is about half as thick as the launch book. This one is also a book and a workbook, but this is more based upon personal growth and personal development. Because in 2010 through 2019, I was very heavy in a personal development space. I found a company called PSI Seminars, and that's their website, psiseminars.com. And because I took the course in February 2010, and after I took the course, it's like a baseball bat was beat to my head. Like, oh my God, of all the stuff that I was just completely unaware of. And it was in a good way. And that started my journey of 2010, doing all the personal development courses that I did. I liked the PSI seminar so much because they had 3 levels of courses. Their first level was called the basic. And then I went back and volunteer staffed that course over the course of the next few years 19 times. So that was a 3-day weekend, all day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And there are more advanced courses, which were in California at that time. I even I took all 3 of the courses. And the second level course, they call it Size 7 because it's a 7-day course on a ranch. Is I would even pay my own plane ticket to fly from Vegas to San Francisco and then catch a bus or the bus from the course. They come and pick us up and took us to the ranch a day early. So I'm gone for 8 days. So that was paying hundreds of dollars for plane tickets and just to get there. But they fed us and we slept in lodges, group lodges. But it was that transformational for me. So I gave back as much as I can.
So how did you get the title for that book?
Designing Your Own Destiny. I remember when I started to write the book. Now, when I did this book here, I hired a book writing coach. I paid a few $1,000s to have a book writing coach. This one took me a year to write, an entire year. I went through 4 drafts on the book, and then I went through 4 more drafts with a content editor. It was a long thing in the making. How I came up with the name. Designing Your Own Destiny, or I call it DIYOD, or DIYOD, and the subtitle is Embracing Change Through Leadership and Love. I wanted something that talked about change, talked about leadership, and talked about love, which is what the whole subtitle is. And then the Designing Your Own Destiny was like, being the master of, of graphing out where is it that you want to go. And that's where the name came from. Now, I probably went through 3 different names before I finally came up with this one. And the other thing is when I write my second and my 4th book, one of the things, this was a personal development book, I wanted quotes in the book, at the beginning of every chapter. And then one thing I learned about quotes is if you're doing a JFK quote or you're doing a Gandhi quote or whatever, all of those quotes are usually going to be making you feel good. You get the energy from this. Now, we have 5 senses. We learn, most of our learning goes through one of our 3 of our 5 senses, our eyes, our ears, and our sense of touch or our feeling. I wanted every single quote in this book to have a visual aspect to it, an auditory aspect to it, as well as a feeling aspect. Just a quote by itself feels good. Now, I will also say that this book, all the quotes that were in this book were quoted by people that did not exist.
Oh.
So that's kind of interesting. Like, how do you have a quote from somebody that does not exist? So I'm going to talk about, if you don't mind, I'm going to read the quote for this one. Is introduction. What was it called? Embracing Change. So I'm going to read the quote and tell me what you think.
Okay.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I'll show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Isn't it from Matrix?
That's from the Matrix. That's Morpheus, the red pill, blue pill quote. So
Mm-hmm.
all the quotes were actually by characters in movies. So the thing
Wow.
is, so when I'm reading that quote, and if you saw the Matrix, you probably see Lawrence Fishburne in your head. You probably hear his voice. but the quote is still a good quote on its own. So every single quote in this book is a movie quote, and even the last one, which is on page on chapter 22, the last quote, it's called "Bringing It All Together." And that's the quote. That's the chapter name. This one that says the quote is, "I love it when a plan comes together." Captain Hannibal, Colonel Hannibal Smith from the A-Team.
18.
So if you ever watch the A-Team,
Yes, I remember with Mr. T.
Mr. T, Faceman,
You're
Murdoch.
taking me back a couple of years here, but it took me a minute. I was trying to process when you were sharing it, and I was like, "Okay, come on, you got this, you got this." And I try to encourage myself when people tell me quotes. Right? Can you figure it out? Who can, you know? And I like that you did that. You used the movies.
Well, not only that, you have recommended readings at the end of a book. The recommended readings, the books that you reference. I also had recommended movies that you should watch, and then I even had another section like what I called notable quotes not used earlier in this book. So I wanted to use these quotes. I didn't know where to put them. My favorite quote is one word. The name of the movie is one word and one syllable. The name of the character is one word and one syllable. It's the shortest quote. You can see it's the shortest quote. And the quote is "squirrel," said by Doug in the movie Up. So it's how easily we get distracted.
Up. Is that the
That's the cartoon? Yeah.
Oh, see, I'm good. I got three for three, guys.
Because I think film and even music has a strong influence on us. And there's a movie called Joy. It was all about this woman with a new mop, and she was trying to get an invention done. And then finally she made it. And I'm not going to give away the movie, but the movie was all about her determination, her persistence, and entrepreneurialism. So watching that movie is a great movie for an entrepreneur, I think.
Yeah,
just like
and that is an awesome movie. Some cartoons are really awesome. They have really good inspirational, motivational messages in them. It's not all play and cartoon and giggling. There are messages, even with the conversations with the characters and everything, if you're really paying attention, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, Kevin, I want to go into the book 3. So the book 3 we're going to go to is the Winner Code.
Yes, this is called The Winner's Code, The Secrets of the Winner's Mindset. And I wrote the outline for this book in like 1 hour, doing an exercise that I talk about, and at least I know it's in my second book. I'm not sure if it's in the fourth one, called free writing. If you don't know what free writing is, I call it, this is kind of what I call woo-woo. Now, those of you who are on the West Coast, you know exactly what I mean. Those of you on the East Coast, woo-woo just means it's kind of out there. Just
oh God, I see where we're going with this one.
and free writing basically is you get yourself a pen or a pencil, and I'm literally saying a pen or a pencil, not your laptop, not that. This is something you should do it by hand. You get a ream of, you get paper, you put it on the top left, whatever your example of God is, or the universe, or your subconscious mind. So you're like G equals God, or M equals Muhammad, or U equals the universe, or S equals subconscious mind. Make sure it's a different letter than your name. And then on the other side, say K equals Kevin. And then just start on this piece of paper, is like put a K, and then you ask yourself a question. And then whatever, let's say the universe equals, or U equals, and then you write down whatever you hear in your mind. And you write down without any doubt, without any hesitation, whatever it said, even if you believe it or not. That's how this book got written. So, and the first time I did that, it took me about 45 minutes, and I got 10 pages front and back. So, and that's how I got into coaching to begin, or that's when I made a decision to get into coaching. That was before my first book was written. And the thing is, you can be in a quiet place, turn off your cell phone, turn off everything else. Don't get distracted by all these other nuances, and just write. Now the thing is, trust whatever's being said is true, because it could be God talking to you, it could be your subconscious mind talking to you, it's the universe, whatever deity that you want to believe in. I just go with it, and just see where it goes. And if you have hard time getting started, I usually tell people, you always ask the question. Your first thing is anybody there? Yeah, just because you don't have to, don't go deep at the very beginning. Go deep later on. Just
Take
be
your
very
time. Go slow.
well. Because the thing is, like, if you've got writer's block, or let's say free writing block, just like, is anybody there? Are you there to help me? Or whatever. Just start off something really soft. If you ever played with a Ouija board, it's the same kind of thing.
I was just gonna bring that in. I was like, "Are you there? Yes, no." If you get a no, then you're like, "Okay, put the pen down."
Or maybe.
You get a yes, start writing, right? So, Kevin, I want to get into the last book, which is actually your first book. So let's talk about that book.
Well, this book, I'm not going to show or give the name at the moment because you didn't mention it. It was a book where I just wanted to become a published author. Now, for those of you people that are thinking about writing a book, I'm going to say one thing. If you're thinking about writing a book, write the book. It's pretty simple. And the reason is because the word authority, or excuse me, the word author is derived from the word authority. So when you become an author, you're an authority, and if you have good content, you are now an authority on that topic.
Ooh,
So when I was still in real estate as a real estate consultant, this is 2015, and I've been a realtor for like 2 or 3 years. My specialty was creative real estate transactions. I think I talked about doing lease options, which is also known as rent to own. I was also doing this. I did this before I was a realtor. And then I was also doing a lot of seller financing type deals. So, where a person may not be able to get a loan, they can move into a lease option, which is a renting to buy the home. So they're working on their credit for that 1 or 2 years, or seller financing, where the seller is actually the bank on the transaction. Well, I had an FAQ on my website back then. An FAQ is frequently asked questions. And I said, I want to write a book, and I don't know how to write a book, all that stuff. But I had the content about my FAQs, so I got my FAQs, and I wrote the first draft of Lease Options Made Easy, buying a home with buying a home with little, no, or bad credit. And of course, you can see my name right there. This is my thinnest book. I had to rewrite this.
See, you have to build up. You gotta
build up.
You gotta build up.
And the thing is, I turned my FAQs basically into the outline of this book. And I remember I was, after I finished my first draft, I was looking at the book and I go, this is the biggest, boring, most boring thing I've ever read. So what I did was I decided to, in order to make it more interesting, I actually developed 2 characters, a Peggy and a Roger, which was a husband and wife that had bad credit. They wanted to buy a house, but they had bad credit. So therefore, what I was able to do was, by using the fictitious characters, I can now have 2 different perspectives on the same subject. And one was an optimist, and one is a pessimist. So now I made it into a story. So it was still a book that you should probably find in the real estate section. I don't even know where you can find this book in the real estate, because it's stories.
But you can find it on his website.
You can find it on Amazon. And I went through writing the book. Now, I am a self-published author. I am going through Amazon. Now, if you're thinking about becoming a self-published author, you'll be going through what the Amazon version for book submissions is called a KDP, which stands for Kindle Direct Publishing. And when I wrote this book, I got my first copy. This isn't the first copy. My first copy is in the room over there. But I got what they call what is known as the proof. The proof is when if you upload your book, you got your covers and you got your content on the inside, and then you have them ship you a printed copy of the book. And I was looking at it, well, that looks nice. The spine looks nice. The green did not bleed over. That green there did not bleed over on the spine. You're looking at all of that. Then I noticed, this is it. This is my this is the first book. I'm going to put my finger on this, and what I did was I noticed this. I had one too many V's in the word today.
Oh.
That's on the cover.
But that's also a secret code to see if you're paying attention when you're reading.
Well, now you got the little red underline. I mean, come on. But then I said, well, let me go ahead and change that. So I called my my VA, my virtual assistant, to make the one correction, and she sent it to me. I uploaded it to Kindle, and then I ordered 40 copies. And guess what? The spines were all white. My book was only like 98 pages long, and I found out you had to be like at least 100 or 110 pages for them to print on the spine. So the only one that I had with the print on the spine was the one with the spelling error on the back.
Well, that's good information to know, because I just self-published my 3 books back there, and I did not know that.
Yes. Well, at least back at that time. So what I ended up doing in that case is I actually added basically more content. I made the lines a little bit further apart, squeezed them in a little bit more so the page count will go up. I think this is 112 pages, so it barely fits in with the minimum range.
Oh wow! See, if you don't know, you'll never find out, right? And if you don't ask the right questions, you'll never find out either.
Or you go and buy that course called Become a Self-Published Author. You get all those little secrets.
There you go. So, Kevin, what final words would you like to leave with the audience today?
I'm going to say if you have an idea, if you're going to wanting to do something and become an expert, or excuse me, you want to become an entrepreneur, there's one thing that I do say, and I say it in my webinars, is that you are an expert at something that somebody else is going to be willing to pay you for that expertise. So there is something that you do, other people are willing to pay money to learn how to do that.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And if anybody would like to get a hold of you, could you read out your email address here for all the people that are listening through the audio instead of the video?
Sure. I'm sure this is going to be in the notes for the website. So it's just Kevin and then my website, which is Optimal Performance Academy.org. Again, Kevin at Optimal Performance Academy.org, and put something in the subject line that's going to cause me to want to read the message, because I do a lot of mass deletes. So make sure that it's something that'll capture my eye. It's like you saw me on a podcast. I saw you on a podcast. And then,
or leave your favorite movie quote. Well, I really want to thank you, Kevin, for joining me today. And I want to thank all of the listeners and viewers out there who participated in today's show. If you found that this show resonates with you, or somebody you know that it will resonate with, share this tea time, because that's how we make a difference when we start sharing all of these tea times. For you to see all of these tea times at your own time and own pace, you can check out Miss Liz's YouTube channel at Miss Liz's Tea Times, or you can check out the website at www.misslizsteatimes.com. We'll be back at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with the last guest of this week, and that'll be Edward Willett, and he'll be speaking about science fiction and fantasy, broadcasting, all that good stuff, acting and singing. We're going to talk about a lot of good stuff, cool stuff. But again, Kevin, I really want to thank you for joining me. If anybody would like to know more about Miss Liz, check out the website. If you would like any of Miss Liz's merchandise, you can check it out. That is in the shop. There is 2 separate shops on Miss Liz's website. There's the colored shop, and then there's the black and white shop. And the black and white shop is a limited edition that is created by one of the Tea Time guests, Maria Harris, who is a single mom who has a printing business in the UK. So it is in UK funds, and it can be exchanged to US and Canadian funds. And they are decent prices when the exchange is done. So again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And I want everyone to just keep serving their tea. When I say serve your tea, I don't mean the beverage. I mean serving your TEA. And today we were served Kevin's tea, transformational, empowering, and what was the last word? I'm trying. Adaptable. See, sometimes I forget too. So just keep sharing those teas, and we're going to share and make a difference in the world when we share our teas. When we use words to describe ourselves and stories, we actually make a difference. So until then, I will see everybody at 7 p.m. for the last tea time of this week. Check out the website if you want to see what tea times are coming up for next week. Until then, I will see everybody at 7 p.m.